Bye-bye Breachy or bye-bye Birdie. How many teams could possibly be 2-0 or 2-2? And then what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? All these answers and more answered on this week's episode of The Money Hill, of course, presented by the Bo3 Network. I'm your host, Scoot, and I'm back with Big Money Blivs. Missed you last week, sir. Unfortunately, Nikita couldn't make it this week, but how are you doing today?
Nikki and I are doing just a little bit of like a WWE tag team over here.
I'm getting ping-ponged. I can't get any consistency.
Yeah.
It's actually unbelievable.
It really is. Kind of similar to this league. So, I'll apologize for not being here last week. I know Nikita was just here this week. This has been a roller coaster of a season already. I still refer to this as the preseason. It still feels like it should be the preseason.
It's not.
But these things matter. And the fact that 3/4 of the league are 2-2 is, a testament to the parity that is this league this season, and a little bit why we're excited to have Modern Warfare 2 back, or not back, but like that game style, and it makes for a good time. It makes for
speak for yourself.
Makes for a lot of fun.
On being excited about the Modern Warfare 2 gameplay, because there were some absolutely abysmal fortress situations this weekend that I really just cannot get over. But to answer the questions, right off the rip, let's start with the easy one.
Sure.
There. We got our 2-2 question.
Okay.
And the answer there is 8. Yeah, it's 3/4 of the league, and it seems a little weird that going into our first major of the season, there's points on the line. We just have this many teams tied. Like, I feel like you got to throw in an extra match or just make sure that the scheduling just, is a little bit fuddled with so that we don't end up with 8 2-2 teams. But I don't know. I listened to Rambo Ray, but Ray now, his interview on OpTic Nation, which I thought was really interesting after their loss to LA Thieves. It feels like at this point in the game, a lot of this is about being more adaptable and kind of capitalizing on mistakes rather than having a strat set. And like teams come into games with strats set, obviously, but there's almost like everyone's going to make a certain amount of mistakes. How adaptable is your team and how well are you going to capitalize on them?
And I think,
that just feels like the meta right now. Like,
and you said it.
generally.
You said it before the season, or maybe it was last week when I was listening to you, Nikita. The quick kill times mean that you have to be able to pivot. If you're not, because you're getting spawned so frequently, and therefore you have to be kind of adaptable to where people are moving. I mean, this is especially hard point and control, but it really forces you to rethink what you're doing, because at any moment you have to be able to switch to another angle. You have to switch to another strategy. But it does result in a ton of parity. You're across the board. You're seeing Legion beating the Røkkr. That fucking comeback on the hard point where there's no reason why they win that third the third map, or the fourth map, and
sketchy spawns,
and all of a sudden next thing you know, they fucking close it out, and you're like, what the hell is going on? So I think the spawns, the quick kill times, a lot of the stuff creates situations that are unpredictable, and it's how do you respond to that unpredictability? And right now, it's a toss-up.
Yeah, I think generally CDL fans have gotten used to unpredictability and thriving in it a little bit, and also like that's just kind of the hallmark of the league at the moment. And honestly, 8 teams being 2-2 is correct for the CDL, even though it feels so incorrect if you're watching any other esport or any other sport just generally. The interesting point you brought up there is changing strategy very quickly, because that was kind of the other conclusion that he came to, which is you almost have to just pick perfect routes and like be reading the other team on such a high level, because they've lowered the gun skill gap so much.
Totally.
And a lot of that has to do with them catering to like pub players and a lot of lower skill pub players. And you can talk all day about SPMM and public matchmaking, things like that. But like a lot of the games are designed for lower skill players. And now you have this problem where you're just picking perfect routes, reading the other team. Gun skill matters slightly less. I mean, there's still definitely people who are shooting straighter than others, and you can see that from the stats. But that's just the fact of the matter. So it's a good point that you brought up there, and glad to know that you're thinking on the same plane as a CDL coach. When are we going to see you in the league, sir?
Yeah, I appreciate it. And look, as someone who, I kind of love anarchy, right? Like, it feels like the league is drunk, right? It just, I woke up, you come in, you watch these things, and you're just like, what am I watching? From a bettor's perspective, it's also kind of a bit of a nightmare, right? When you're betting, you're looking for models, you're looking for consistency. Now, some patterns that we have picked up, in particular, this one pattern that I'm obsessed with at the moment is the first team who wins a map. So, for example, in the OpTic Texas versus LA Thieves map game, OpTic wins the first map. You immediately bet the other side of this because now you're going to get better odds. We've seen it multiple times all weekend, all over the past 2 weeks. Like literally 4 games in a row on Sunday where you had Boston Breach, go up first, looked like world beaters, looked like the best team in the COD. All of a sudden LAG comes back 3-1. Same with OpTic Texas, that game was really close. But Ultra, they get smoked by Seattle Surge in the first map and then come back and 3-1 them. And the same is true for Legion and the Røkkr. This is a thing that I'm going to be looking for, but man, that's such a fun way to kind of make some nice money. So I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start flipping whoever wins map 1, taking the other side of it every time for the money line.
I'm interested to see if that holds up on LAN because I expect a little bit more consistency in a LAN environment, hopefully. And somebody in our comment section did bring up that, Atlanta FaZe is notoriously difficult to play online just because of where they're located in Atlanta. Like the server selection is a little difficult based on where Call of Duty hosts. It's a little odd, but I think the other, easy question to answer from the intro is regarding Paris Legion, or not Paris Legion, Vegas Legion.
Yeah.
Sorry, Clayster, sue me. I apologize. Saw your tweet from months ago about the name switch.
Wait, what did he say?
Oh, actually, he said it's Vegas Legion now. If you call it Paris, you owe me $5. Or everyone that calls it Paris owes me $5. And it's hard to it's imprinted in your brain. Like, it's hard to get rid of it. So I don't really know, but I guess I owe him money now. So, Clayster, drop your Venmo in the comments if you see this.
Yeah, he owes us a lot of money for last year when we were betting on the New York Subliners.
Listen, there's a lot of drama afoot in New York.
There is.
So, listen, first win in 7 months. So congrats to the boys. Hopefully they get the ball rolling, and I think it's just generally good for the league that Vegas Legion is more competitive than last year.
And they are more competitive.
They are. They actually
unquestionably.
Their series are actually not bad.
I was watching that game and I was like, this is actually a Call of Duty team. This is a team that you're like,
I mean, outside of their 3-0 to FaZe, they don't look that bad.
Totally.
Generally.
And like a 3-0 to FaZe, like that's gonna happen. Like you just kind of like I'm not gonna think too much about that. But I'm 100% on there with you. Like you're seeing Clayster in there and you're like, this kind of feels normal. This kind of feels somewhat decent. And then you're seeing the rest of them. You're seeing Prolute, who's, a decent sub from other teams, but you got Timp and TJ Haley. Like, these are guys that have been around. They're kind of like an old guard, but they kind of feel warm and fuzzy. I forget, I think we had them all as dead last in our rankings. They're at least like a formidable dead last team.
Yeah, I mean, they were certainly less formidable last year, and they made roster changes that made them even less formidable at points, which it was just a weird year. But I think, honestly, this team could perform on LAN. Like, they definitely have a lot of guys that have a ton of LAN experience. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens at this major regarding Vegas Legion, because they're also one of the better scrim teams this year coming into the season, interestingly enough.
Yeah, well,
so
we've always
and
heard
we know
about
that scrims are not
the
be-all, end-all, right? Like, we all know that.
We all know what the scrim lords are like.
I think more into the meat of the league here and kind of the juicy question.
Talk to me.
We had 2 teams come in this week that were 2-0 that have ended the week at 2-2, both of them. Boston Breach and London Royal Ravens.
Yep.
And I'm not even going to ask you if you're short on them. I'm just going to ask you who you're shorter on regarding their results. Because it was a bad week for both of them, let's just be clear. But I struggle to know which team had a worse week, honestly. I think Breach got unlucky in their first match. But
look, I'm gonna say that I am lower on the London Royal Ravens. I was not high on them before the season. Breach played the Subliners again. I can't be like, whoop-de-doo, Ravens beat Subliners and then Breach lose to them. But at least it was close. It was a 3-2. And then they looked great in map 1 against LAG. And then LAG just fucking turned it on. It was really impressive.
Let's be clear here. Subliners looked sublime this week. So, hard to fault them for losing that.
Yeah.
And I think they stepped into a hot team and got a little bit unlucky in that regard because, you come into the weekend, you get your warm-ups, all that, but you don't really hit match pace until you're in one. And then you get Subliners who are coming off a hot 3-0 victory, and then they edge you out to map 5.
Yep.
Unfortunate. However, I'll say this. The loss to LAG is inexcusable because there was a lot on the line for them. I believe this changes kind of where they're sitting from like 2nd to 8th place or something like that.
Something outrageous.
And it is ridiculous to lose that because, like, you are playing better than LAG.
Yep.
You theoretically have a better team across the board, and like I think you should win that.
Yep.
That it goes without saying. But I don't know. Props to LAG. They pulled it off. You said it yourself.
They did.
But again, inexcusable from Breach in my opinion. And the other fact of the matter here is London's hardpoint looks pretty good, like across the board. They beat Texas in both, made them 2-3-5 them.
Yep.
Which, I mean, tough way to lose, of course, if your search is looking that bad. But then again, like we've seen a lot of teams come into majors with bad search and then pick it up out of nowhere. And oh look, now you have a major champion. Which, like, if your respawns are good, you've got guaranteed maps here and there in a series. So, I think I'm shorter on Breach coming off this week. I just, they didn't really look that competitive. I think the Subliner series is a little bit harder to read, but, like, the LAG series, it's a disappointing loss, if you ask me. Now, going into the major, I have an interesting point to make about London, but we'll talk about that when we actually talk about the matches.
I mean, look, Owakening is consistently someone that we have high expectations for. And when he's popping off, that is the engine that will drive this Boston team. For him to kind of come in on this map again, or in the game against Subliners, like, the dude went -6, didn't do anything great. Nero had a very suboptimal game. But I really think Owakening is that engine, the leader on that team that kind of helps facilitate the rest of what they're doing.
I don't disagree.
So I really, we need, Boston Breach need Owakening to be clutch for them to succeed. This is why I forget who had him high. I think did you have him high? Or was it Nikki? Definitely wasn't me.
I think Nikki had him higher than me.
Owakening not performing. Like, this is a team that to me is going to be a middle of the pack team, just as I expected them to. For London Royal Ravens, like, this is another team that is just, to me, a bottom of the barrel team, and like they beat 2 suboptimal teams and then kind of just didn't have it this week. So I don't know. I expect the Owakening engine to overperform the London Royal Ravens, like ASIM and Zero Pollux nasty combo. Although,
I don't know, dude.
ASIM fucking popped
ASIM's
off.
hard points look really, really good, and I know you're a huge fan of him. I will say this though: Pollux historically has performed significantly worse on LAN, or at least that's what we're led to believe. So it does draw a little bit of issue for London, but I'm saying off this week in terms of online, I would say London looked like the better team. Now, I think Owakening will come back and pop off, so I don't disagree with you on that point. I think the other interesting thing here is we had 3 teams go 1-1. They're all top of the table teams, and I think for obviously one of Texas and Thieves had to go 1-1, pretty much.
Yeah.
But to have them both go 1-1 is a little weird because you kind of expect Thieves to beat Florida, and they didn't. And then they beat Texas, and it was a good bounce back by them, all things considered.
But
you'd expect Texas to beat London and then carry over a little bit.
Totally.
I mean, it's not worth analyzing. I think that was just a little bit of a fluke, if you ask me.
I mean,
but
it's kind of worth analyzing.
I don't know.
This is a team. This is a Thieves team that is just inconsistent right now, and I think that is going to be really important to kind of take into consideration. There's no world where they should be losing to fucking Florida.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Like, you're going to lose to bad teams here and there, but I agree. I mean, like, the consistency
3-1?
set in late in last season as well, though.
Yeah, well...
Like, they were pretty inconsistent to start last
year,
so it's not worth counting them out at this point yet. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
And then the other team coming in at 1-1, Atlanta FaZe, with a 3-0 over Legion to end off their weekend after losing 3-2 to Ultra. And, props to Ultra for a great weekend, 2-0. Finishing off the stage 3-1, but
I think you meant to change your color behind you to purple.
I didn't. I would never do that. I'll never get behind this train. I don't care if they win every major this year. I'm still going to root against them. I'm sorry to all our Canadian fans in the Discord, and to you as well. But I mean, I can't support this. It's been too many years of this shit over and over again.
Well, it's not stopping anytime soon.
It will when we hit land. Don't worry about it.
Major one champion. Don't worry.
I mean, this is a huge proving ground for Scrappy too, because it's the first LAN tournament in the big leagues.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And Standy last year on LAN was not looking great. That's also part of the equation here.
Yep.
So a little regression to the mean could be coming for Toronto Ultra.
All I'm saying is you and Nikki had Ultra 5 and 6, and they are so far much better than 5 or 6.
Yeah, sure, but it's been 4 games.
Yeah, sure.
Like they're literally one loss. They're one loss away from being in the middle of the table again.
Yes and no. So that's a misleading statistic.
They're one bad major from being near the bottom of the table.
Look, the reality is, while of course when everyone is separated by one game, you could make that comment, but that is a ill-informed comment. Ultra still have the second best game win percentage, only behind Minnesota Røkkr. They are winning at a 58.8% clip, which is second best in the entire league. And so for a team that is only one win ahead,
that's going to be true if you've won matches,
but not always. You'd be surprised. So like, for example, down here you see a bunch of teams that are 2-2 who just have lower map win rates than the other teams who are 2-2. So like FaZe over here is at 53%, Boston Breach is at 53%, whereas you have Florida Mutineers 2-2 at 42 or 44%. And so I think it's still a telling statistic that this team who, yes, they're winning matches, but they're also winning maps, which I know those two go in hand, but like it's more than just a 3-2, it's a 3-1.
I mean, they could have a much higher map win percentage, realistically.
Yes. I mean, Røkkr have a 62.5%.
Yeah, and even so, like they still have a...
they lost 3-1.
What, 3-1 loss in there?
They do.
I think Ultra do as well, which means that they've had a closer series across the board. All right, but I think that about does it. We can pretty much hop into the betting here, and also we'll talk outrights first. I actually want to hear a general prediction before we get into the odds and all of that. Who do you have winning Major 1, Chris? I've already talked to Nikita about it.
You already know who I have.
This is so telegraphed.
Yeah, like
I already know who you're gonna say.
Okay, say it. Say it on my behalf.
Toronto
Ultra. That is correct. Hands down, best team, Call of Duty this year, going to win the first major, and they're going to win the last major, aka the championship.
Personally, I'm going to go with Røkkr or OpTic, and I'm not really sure which way I'm leaning right now. I'm a little bit split on it. I think OpTic's been sick, so that factors in a little. Teams had COVID. Makes it a little difficult to play Call of Duty.
What I will say is these odds that you can get right now are fucking fantastic. For like the first time ever, these odds are actually like really good. And so if you're feeling one way or another, you can get a lot of value on a couple different teams. I would not take the OpTic. Minnesota Røkkr at plus 600? Absolutely. Toronto Ultra at plus 400? Absolutely. You have to do those. If you want to get real crazy, I mean, if you're really feeling your London Royal Ravens, plus 5,000.
I don't know if I'm feeling it that much. I said what I said about London. Like, it's going to be difficult on LAN to overcome some of the hurdles that are already established in the community about certain players on their team, which, I mean, that just happens that way.
Yep.
And I don't really know yet if they have a team that can close out a top-tier team in a final.
Well, if you're
in a longer series, like where it's going to be more difficult to do that in the first place.
If you're a believer in the old guard and the LAN-proven gentleman of the Las Vegas Legion, plus 10,000.
I mean, I don't hate them to make the final at 51. Like, honestly.
Yeah, totally.
They could step up. They also have a good role player in ProLoot. He's young. He's learning from the right people. So, like,
if you want to get real,
there is something to say about that.
Totally. Just the value is there. That's all we're saying. Like, to put a taste on it, why not? This is a team that did they just come 1-3? Yes, but could they all of a sudden get online or get on LAN and all of a sudden just start popping off? Absolutely. And this is a game that is more similar to where these guys were great.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know about that because higher TTKs in the past for sure, and they could gun people more easily, or at least had a gap in their gun skill as well. I think generally it's really hard for me to pick a winner here in terms of the lines. I think they're pretty well set, if you ask me. There's a little bit of value across the board in some of the underdogs like Røkkr, but I don't know. Rocker's also not realistically an underdog. They're coming in at 3-1. There's maybe a win in there that is, a little bit contested against OpTic, considering the glitch and all that. But we do have two matches that are established. There is one on Wednesday as well between Thieves and London. That's also a tiebreaker. Do not have odds for that at the moment currently. However, we can lock a little bit. I'll let you throw futures in there as well, even though you've kind of already expressed those.
Yeah.
But if you have any like love locks, this is a shortened, albeit slightly more interesting one considering the matchups.
Well,
considering I think the LAG New York series, the loser comes out better for some reason, but if
seems you're
anyone
going to
can
be
fill me
throwing
in
it.
on why that's the case, yeah, we've seen that before. Throw a comment down below if you have a full breakdown of what's going on there, please, because I'm slightly confused.
Look, as well, we will be talking in our Discord, right? So make sure to join our Discord, follow our socials. We're going to be talking about these matches in real time and adding, our community has far better insights than you or I do, so it's a good spot to pick up some
that's not true.
It's a great place to learn.
You got some of the best in the league.
Yeah, that's true. Absolute, just to jump straight into my lock, Toronto Ultra, outright winner, plus 400. You heard it here first. Absolutely no question about it. So that's my lock. Where are you leaning?
I'll take a little like on Minnesota Røkkr at 7.00 odds. I think that's pretty clean. Goes without saying that they could definitely win this major, as well as like realistically anyone, if you really ask me.
Yeah.
But I think the lock this week has to be LAG over New York Subliners at 2.62 odds.
Yep.
Listen, Subliners had a good week.
Yep.
Do I believe in them? No, not at all. And coming out this week, I think somebody from the New York Subliners organization responded to a comment that was a graphic of Hydra and Standy next to each other with like pretty similar stats. And I guess they've previously dated the same girl or something like that. Or I guess Standy used to date her and Hydra's dating her now, something along those lines. And there's one of the people in their organization, not familiar exactly with what he does, but he responded to a comment below that says they have more than this in common, or they have one. There's one thing in common with like a thinking face. And he said that's out of pocket, and then Hydra got him fired for saying that's out of pocket with like a laughing emoji.
Yeah.
And
that's
I think that is absurd to give a player that much control of your organization, especially in a volatile game such as Call of Duty. So now every player in their organization knows that if they piss off their dear leader with the sub, they're in trouble. And I think that's gonna bring some cracks to the org. So I'm taking LAG all day on the money line. Plus, you've got the buff on land. Spart won a major last year. They're gonna 2-3-5 this. It's gonna be an over 4.5. Don't hate that as well at 2.75. I'll throw a little like on that, or a love actually.
I love it.
Great movie.
I love it. For me, my love is going to be OpTic Texas over Florida Mutineers, minus 1.5, and I'm seeing minus 150, which I think equates to like, what is that, 1.75 or something?
I have an interesting take on this.
Please.
And it's got nothing to do with the players, but historically, OpTic Texas against Florida, when it kind of matters in terms of majors. Now, I think this is happening online, interestingly enough. So maybe not as significant as a LAN environment, but historically as a franchise, Florida's kind of been their kryptonite in crucial situations.
Ooh.
So I don't hate the Florida Mutineers plus 1.5 at 2.1. I think this could actually be closer than it should be on paper.
Tell me more.
I mean, Florida didn't have a bad week this week, if you really ask me. Like, at some points it looked sketchy, but they did have the 3-1 win over LA Thieves. They lost to Røkkr 3-1. But it seemed like all the guns were kind of shooting straight. So maybe the young guys are stepping up a little bit, and I don't know. Could be seeing it get close. And if OpTic's still sick, that presents a problem enough for them in the first place. So I don't really know. But, of course, OpTic Texas fan at the end of the day, I gotta stay with them winning this.
Yeah.
So plus 1.5 is where I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, a very large part of me also wants to put minus 2.5 for OpTic Texas at plus 225 or 3.25. I love that, and I just think you're going to see OpTic come in and just slaughter them.
Really?
Yep.
You think they're coming in healthy?
I think they're coming in
Fully
healthy. They're coming in on LAN, which is what I always love it when I get a LAN OpTic.
I think it's online. I'm not sure.
It's in Raleigh.
I'm not certain on the LAN.
It's in Raleigh.
Well, no, it's on Thursday. I think it'll be on LAN actually.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because considering the tournament starts right after that,
Yeah.
but this is a qualifier,
Right,
so they
right.
could be playing and then flying. It's like it's a
they're
weird
probably
situation.
already there now.
I would assume they're already there and it's happening in person,
Yeah.
but I'm not entirely certain on that situation. Plus, like, LAN's a little different now. It's not exact LAN. It's like really low ping LAN, but it's still technically online, so that's like a weird situation.
Yeah, I hear you.
And
what's your like? Give me one like.
Listen, I already gave you one.
Give me another one.
You got to be paying attention here.
I've been making sure that I got all mine set for you.
Hey, man, I already gave you one.
Okay.
Minnesota Røkkr, 7.0.
I know.
Win the major.
Plus 600 for the American listeners.
For the Americans, for the Canadians. Actually, Canadians? Definitely European odds, I
I think
believe.
so.
I think that's how they reference it in chat, at least. I'm not entirely certain on that.
What are you doing for your love? Or your lock?
LEG over New York.
Okay.
I've gone through everything I have.
Okay. Yeah.
There's not a lot to pick from. Again,
the problem is there's not a lot to pick from.
short week.
Well, it's a long week. We just don't have the odds yet because they're doing the Challenger play.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll get there eventually, but we'll be active in Discord. Join the Discord down in the description below. Follow us on Twitter at Bo3 Network for all the updates as well. But yeah, I mean, we'll be active in there. Definitely have our picks once the odds are out in terms of groups and everything along those
Maybe
lines.
we can record Friday as well. That'd be fun.
It's possible, but it also would go out super late. There's a little bit of shipping issues with that. It's tough to get eyes on it if it's that late in the week.
Yeah.
Any final
That's
thoughts?
what people want. To me, this is so. Again, just to reiterate, no one knows what the fuck is going on. So, I think you're better off taking some of these long shots. Like, why not put in? You love LAG smashing New York Subliners. You can get LAG at plus 8,000 to win. Is that possible? Maybe. I don't know. So I would, we've seen this now. We saw it last year. This is teed up for a wonky team to kind of come through and all of a sudden win this major. A team that you have no expectations for.
Oh, yeah.
And so.
Absolutely. This is Legion's major.
Yeah. Honestly, so you're better off just putting a couple tastes, whether it be LAG, whether it be Legion, whether it be the Breach, whether it be, I still think Ultra are going to win, but put according sizes based on the odds, but anyone.
I don't necessarily expect a winner to. I actually don't expect a favorite to win this.
Correct.
I expect a favorite to win Major 2, but
there's no way. There's no way
now.
FaZe, Thieves, or OpTic are winning this.
FaZe is the one team that I'm like they could actually win this.
FaZe, Thieves.
They're very good at adapting on the fly. They've got a very aggressive team as well. So, I mean, those are my final thoughts. Again, Discord down in the description below. We are hearing a pretty high number of members there. I think we're around, 50 to 75, somewhere in there.
Times 1,000.
Hoping to get to 100 sometime soon. So if you're interested, join us.
Yep.
We're accessible.
We are.
We respond to shit. Also follow us on Twitter at Bo3 Network. And is there anything? I feel like I'm forgetting something. You would know. Oh, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that like button if you enjoyed what you hear. And leave a comment if you hate us, if you love us, love our takes, hate them, anything along those lines. But with that being said, we'll see you later this week or next week. Peace out.
Toodaloo.